curse you, FromSoft! I hereby vow you will rue this day. Behold, a true Souls veteran, and the Fetch Quest podcast. Your fear made flesh, hard bosses you may have, foul developer. But I riddle with holes your BS bosses with a flurry of frost and a barrage of bleed weapons. With every last drop of my being, I will drop you.
Oh, holy shit, guy! What the fuck happened to you?
Dog, I'm playing through the Elden Ring DLC, and God, it's so hard. It's so hard, man.
Yeah, it's insane how hard it is, man. Like I thought the base game was tough. Man, this thing's a whole other monster.
Yeah, even with my super broken, overpowered bleed build, I've been struggling a lot.
Came really close to breaking multiple controllers. What about you, Brewer?
I unfortunately cannot say almost. My controller is in several pieces across my floor.
Yep, that makes sense. Hello, everyone. Welcome to a very special episode, the sequel to our Elden Ring episode, Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree. What is it? Why do we love it? And is this potentially FromSoft's best content that they've ever released? All covered today in today's podcast. So, boys, fucking finally! Oh my god! I'd been waiting 2.5 years for this, but we finally got Elden Ring: Shadow of the Erdtree, the one and only DLC for the Elden Ring game. Now, I gotta say, it's pretty good. It's pretty aight.
Pretty high. It's all you had to say after 2 years.
It's high. It's not that good.
2 whole years awaiting.
It's
It's
Best
aight.
4 out of 10 I've ever played.
Best 2 out of 10 I've ever had the pleasure of playing.
Yo.
Best mid out of 10 thing I've ever played in my life. It's fine. But in all seriousness, this is Elden Ring's DLC, which Elden Ring has blown up pop culture, not only in video games, but just everywhere. It had a pop culture resurgence recently before the DLC. So, of course, this was a pretty big thing for FromSoft to drop, having their DLC for their biggest game release. A lot of high expectations were going into this. So, I have to ask, guys, as like an overall thought process and like how you guys like went through the DLC, did the DLC live up to your expectations? I feel like that'd be a fun topic to start off with.
Oh yeah, it met my expectations and went above and beyond what I imagined they would have even done. Because like, I did not expect for the DLC to take me like 40 damn hours to beat, or like there was that much content I actively wanted to do that like I wasn't trying to rush to do the main story. I was taking my time to explore every nook and cranny to fight every single bullshit remembrance boss they put in the game. All around, it was just an amazing expansion to an already fantastic game. Because in the Elden Ring vid, I called the game a masterpiece, so I don't even know what to call the game now with the DLC on top of it.
A master bait piece.
Whoa.
I agree. I think that this is the best part of Elden Ring, funnily enough. Like, the base game is amazing, don't get me wrong, but I think the DLC is the best part of the main game. I think it has the best boss in FromSoft, my favorite weapons in the FromSoft thing, my favorite areas, and a lot of the enemies are really cool. I just don't think there's any downside. Like, there's not very many downsides, and there's a whole lot of upsides. And like every negative thing you can say about the game, you can say 10 positive things about something similar, and I think that's really cool.
And by your favorite weapon, you mean these hands?
Yes, yes, these hands, beautiful, beautiful hands.
You refuse to use any other weapon you found. You're just like, yeah, I'm just gonna
I
go
I
left
do.
and right.
I saw the DLC trailer. I saw that one of the weapons was just your fists, and I knew what I was gonna do. And I played through the entire DLC with one weapon, and I do not
Yeah,
care.
it's kind of funny that the DLC that has the hardest bosses in the game is the DLC where you then can unlock the option to just straight up throwing hands with the boss. Like, not with the easier bosses in main game. No, only in the extra difficult DLC can you throw hands with the bosses.
And it's beautiful. I wouldn't ask for any other thing, but enough about the hands, even though they are amazing. The DLC itself, very difficult, very, very hard. Made me contemplate my life choices several times, mostly with that final boss. Other than that, I was pretty alright. But that final boss and some of the areas, pretty difficult.
I agree.
Yeah, okay. I'm with you on there.
I
But
think
mm.
I think the final boss of the DLC is the hardest FromSoft boss, even though I've only beaten one FromSoft game, so I can't talk about it too much. But Guy, you've played them all, right?
Yes,
So you can
I can.
this
Okay,
stuff more.
I think Melania took the crown as like the hardest FromSoft boss before this, and before her I think was Orphan of Cause from Bloodborne. But I'm gonna be real, like there were arguments for Orphan of Cause and Melania like still being the hardest. I'm gonna be entirely honest. The DLC final boss like spits on them and bullies them. It makes Orphan of Cause and Melania look like the nerd that would get bullied in high school. Like it's that hard.
Especially before you fight the final boss, you have a boss that you fight that literally has the Orphan of Cause's weapon.
Oh yeah, the
The
Putrescent Knight. Yes.
yeah, it shows just how much they dogged on the Orphan of Cause. That fight was really hard, but oh my god,
Yeah.
that final boss, like not trying to like the rant or anything, but like since I like have a life and a working and everything, is I don't want to spend as much time trying to throw myself at a brick wall and just mentally exhaust myself. And I just kept taking breaks because I was like, I'm not doing this right now. I want to rest or something. I'm not.
No, that's completely fair.
It's like holy
And not even just the final boss. So many bosses in the DLC.
yeah.
Like, you throw hands at them, they're gonna throw hands back like 5 times as hard.
Because
Especially if you haven't found enough of the Shadow Tree fragments.
I remember
So
going through Elden Ring for the first time, and I sat there and I fought Melania for like 6 or 7 hours straight just to beat that fucker. Then with this fight, like I took breaks. So I was like, I'm not doing that to myself again. I'm not. I was like, I'm not fucking doing that.
I don't
I
blame you, dog.
refuse.
Oh
It
man.
was awful.
That
yeah,
is kind of okay. I do kind of want to transition to that topic a little bit. Like, obviously, like we talked about this in the difficulty episode about like people complaining maybe a little too much about the DLC difficulty, but I do think there's only one part that I think is worthy of merit, and that's that final boss. I'm gonna be entirely honest. And don't get me wrong,
Yeah.
the rest of the DLC is already hard as balls. It is definitely the hardest fight part of the game, but no other fight in the DLC made me consider using summons to beat it. Like, it was that hard.
damn, even the Souls veteran was considering using summons on the final
Yeah.
boss. That's how bad it
But I
was.
mean, I like
And
the
I think
difficulty, though.
I think that brings us into the point of you know, most FromSoft games these days are known. Big part of the game is the boss fights and boss fight difficulty, because that's kind of Miyazaki's philosophy. He doesn't want to make easy games, and a good amount of difficulty in these games goes into the boss fights. And I'd say that the Shadow of the Erdtree boss fights are definitely some of them are definitely some of the hardest in the games. Mainly the final boss, Mesmer, the Impaler, my personal favorite FromSoft boss I've ever fought in, and I think for most people, the Dancing Lion.
Yeah, I think
Dancing
that's
Lion
a
and Rolana.
The reason I
Yeah.
didn't include
Well,
Rolana is because I know like I had a lot of difficulty with Rolana, but I was also Shadow Tree level 1 or 2. I think I was 2. I was level 2.
Yeah,
I do find it kind of funny how like so many people were having trouble with the bosses that I think like the developers themselves put out a tweet saying, "Motherfuckers, go get the Shadow Tree fragment."
remember the weekend that the DLC came out? People were complaining about these fights. I was scrolling Twitter while taking like a 5 minute break from the DLC, and then Bandai Namco just says, "This is a reminder to pick up Shadow Tree fragments," which I feel like we should talk about that for our topic, like a next topic. Um,
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I do want to say one quick thing about that before that with like the bosses. Just like we can't mention them too much because fighting them yourselves is part of the experience. But I do want to know like the bosses just they are a hell of a lot more aggressive in the DLC
Oh, easily.
because like almost
Easy.
any of the other bosses in the main game, usually if you get hit by an attack, you were pretty free to like heal right afterwards or something. There's a couple of bosses that like are exceptions to that rule, but for the most part, I think we can agree in the Elden Ring like main bosses, like they weren't as aggressive. They would have big attacks, but they would give you windows to breathe. I think the main difference in the difficulty with the DLC bosses is before you have a chance to heal, so like you'll get hit by attack, you'll need to dodge like another 10 hit string combo before you can get a chance to even heal. And
And
even
that's
then, it's only
yeah.
for like a couple
I'm
seconds.
pretty
and that's
sure.
especially true with the final boss. Oh my god. You walk into that boss arena and the gas is pressed until the fight's over. There's no fucking stopping.
I think
It starts the moment you walk into that boss
yeah,
arena.
I think the reason because of that is because they, sort of like increase the as you said before the aggression, but also like input reading of them before. So like they will. That's why they're more aggressive is because the like AI is sort of trying to read if you're going to heal or not. And so it for a lot of the bosses, it turns into having to use your punish windows where you would be able to deal damage into healing. Um, like especially with fights like Mesmer, the final boss, and a few others where you just gotta decide is if healing or actually dealing damage is the more optimal play there.
I mean that kind of goes for the base game as well, but it's just like people really realized how like important decision making is in the entire game because of the DLC. Like if it was a wake up call for like genuinely how hard the game could get, and I think I think another big
Yeah.
thing as to why people were complaining, Elden Ring was a lot of people's first Souls game because again, most successful game they have, so a lot of new players. So they had like an easy time with like their mimic tier or some shit, and now like they're going into like a DLC with like really hard fucking fights, and now they're complaining about it being too hard. You know what I mean? Which is crazy because FromSoft fans are usually the ones who like dog on people for saying shit is too hard.
And now the FromSoft fans are like, yeah, this is too hard. But
Yeah,
I don't know.
which is sad.
I wouldn't. I wouldn't say the DLC was too hard. Like the most controversial thing about the DLC is the final boss in terms of difficulty.
Oh, for sure.
But everything else felt fair for the most part. Like it
Yeah,
was
the
a
final
lot of
boss I
fun.
think is a topic for probably later in the
Yeah,
episode
but
because I know we have a lot of thoughts on
Yeah,
that.
that's fair.
like with I agree with Liam when I say Mesmer was probably my favorite fight because it just the, everything about it was just awesome. Just the design, the attacks, everything. Just loved
Yeah,
it.
Mesmer was probably my favorite
But
fight as well. I think okay. I do want to say this though. Me and Brewer in the Elden Ring Shadow of the Erdtree prediction video, we were kind of right about Mesmer being a mid game boss, and actually this is kind of funny. You can actually fight Mesmer as either your first boss or one of the last bosses you fight. depending on your journey.
I like how
Very,
they did.
very funny
every
design.
boss, but the final boss you can fight in any order.
Yeah,
That's crazy to think about.
but that goes into
Like
like
nothing's locked off.
the freedom that Shadow of the Erdtree gives you, which kind of leads into a point I want to talk about is the Shadow Tree fragments and like the exploration. So FromSoft, they knew that people going into the DLC would probably go in with their level 150 characters, typically pretty high. And so they had to figure out a way to people so that they can't just steamroll the entire game with their really broken builds. Because if we're going to be entirely honest, in terms of brokenness, you can get yourself very, very broken in Elden Ring if you know how to build correctly. So, to prevent
Yeah.
this, they introduced a new system called the Shadow Tree Fragments. What you do is that you would collect the Shadow Tree Fragments across the land. They could be from a boss, they can be from an enemy, from a statue, from doing some parts of quest and whatnot, stuff like that. But the idea is that with the Shadow Tree Fragments, when you use them, you increase the amount of damage you do, and you increase your damage negation. So you take less damage, do more damage. And there's something similar to that for your ashes and your actions on Torrent. So you want to collect these two items to make yourself more stronger in the DLC, where normal leveling doesn't have as much as an impact compared to Shadow Tree blessings.
Yeah.
I do want to say this real quick with the Shadow Tree system. I liked it a lot. Like, it was definitely a good way to make sure that like the DLC was balanced in a way for everybody. Because I do think for like a DLC that took over 2 years to come out, there's some people that have like new game plus like 7 characters that are like level 700. They had to balance them out somehow, or even then, some people like level 300 characters on like not even new game plus. So I think like making you explore the world that they put a lot of time into, like that's a good decision for the DLC. You get more powerful for like exploring the thing you should be doing.
Yeah.
My only one gripe with it though is the amount of Shadow Tree fragments, because there's 50 fragments in the world, and the max level is 20. So each time you level up, it may cost a little more. It goes from like 1 to 2 to 3, and there's a limited supply of them in a world. There's only 50. I kind of feel like they should have done something similar to like the golden seeds, to where they should have had more of them in the world than needed, because towards the end of the game, especially with like how difficult that final boss is, you want to be as high of a Shadow Tree level as you can be, so level 20. But the game doesn't track down from start like how many fragments you've collected and where.
Yeah.
So like it became a thing where like I had to when I was missing a couple fragments to get to the last couple levels, I just had to like check a guide, see like how many fragments I had, see like where all they were located, and then go check like every single location, and then the ones I wasn't sure of to see if I could find those last fragments. Because if I do go into the DLC again, any Shadow Tree fragment I get, I'm immediately marking it on the map. Because God, it sucked having to go back and find all
What's
those
funny
fragments.
about the Shadow Tree fragments is I didn't know until the very end of the game that Shadow Tree fragments could be found inside of the enemy, like the enemy with the pots. You can actually.
I was just about to mention those guys.
Yeah, so at the very end of the game, I got like 4 or 5 of those from those enemies that I had just never known that would drop that.
You know what? I was kind of the same way. I think that's a common thing for a lot of people.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
I knew it was a thing because I ended up killing one of those guys and found one. It's like, okay, but finding those guys and like actually having to look for them and everything with how. Well, personally, I find the map a little hard to navigate in some areas. So, like with that on top of everything else, is looking for those guys with the pulse on their head just to kill them and get a fragment. That can be really tedious sometimes, and it's just.
Actually, fun
Yeah.
little tidbit of information. I found this out today. There are pots, like hanging pots around the map that give you bell bearings in the DLC that just drop like like art items that you'd have to farm in like the original game, and they just
Oh yeah, like string.
they just you can just find them across the map. I did not know about that until today. There is just so much in the DLC that I just probably
Well, that makes me and you both then, because I didn't know.
That kind of goes into
Yes,
the aspect though. It's like the exploration is so vast because it's so big. It's such a big DLC. Like FromSoft was not kidding when they said that this is their biggest DLC to date.
But Miyazaki was
Well, they're also fucking lying.
Miyazaki was lying.
Yeah, Miyazaki's a liar. Limgrave my ass.
Yeah, Limgrave my ass.
See, well, guys,
It's like Limgrave, Caelid, and Liurnia.
guys, it is as big
5
as
Limgraves
Limgrave.
on top of each
He
other.
just forgot to mention the fact it's like 7 Limgraves stacked on top of each other.
No, I think that man just needs to get a new prescription for his glasses because dude was not looking at the map right.
he did not look.
Dude,
that
that reminds me of some of the jokes I made when I was talking to y'all when I was fighting some bosses. I made some really bad jokes.
Oh god. Oh Jaden.
Yeah, we shouldn't say those.
We probably shouldn't say those.
Yeah.
You were in the right state of mind because the
Yeah.
DLC is really hard. So probably not for the best.
Yeah. But
I will say this though. I do think it's kind of insane to me how FromSoft made a 40-hour DLC? Like, I'm sorry, what the fuck? Like, some people were skeptical about the $40 price tag for the DLC, because that's the most they ever charged for a DLC. Not only that, but it's like, okay, if this is like quote unquote the size of Limgrave, what really is going to be the size of this DLC? I think it makes up like a third of the whole game, if I'm going to be honest. Like a third of the whole game's content.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
Yeah. So, because it's like now, the average playthrough time, I would say, of Elden Ring is about 100 hours. So if you're wanting to play the entire game like from scratch with the DLC, you're going to be investing about 140, 150 hours into the game.
I wouldn't say 100 hours because I ended off with like my DLC playthrough, like in total time 115. I think the average I've seen for most people, like if you do all the remembrance bosses, which is about what everyone wants to do, base game, I'd say that can take like 60 to 70 hours if you're just trying to go about things in a slow fashion, not trying to use too many guides.
I'm with Connor on this, actually.
Also
And then DLC on top of that, around 40.
My first
I'm with Connor,
playthrough
yeah.
of the base game is if you're
Really?
like taking your time and exploring, not doing guides, that's gonna take a while.
I finished
No,
the
I
game.
still agree that it takes a while, but not that much
I
time though.
finished my first playthrough in hour 93. I didn't even do all the remembrance fights. I forgot one of them, and it was Lich Dragon Fortisax. I didn't even do all
I
the
got
remembrance ones.
on like literally hour mark 100 was when I finally beat all the bosses, and I would agree. And then for the DLC, I didn't do everything. I kind of I probably missed like a good amount. I probably explored most of the areas, but there's definitely some stuff I missed. And so I think it's like it basically, no matter what, the DLC or the base game plus DLC is now going to be like 100+ hour playthrough if you're trying to like not rush things. If you're not rushing things, it is now a very, very long game, but it's worth it.
True.
Yeah, definitely.
But that just goes into like what we were saying earlier. It's just like the game is so big. This is a 40 to 50 hour DLC. Like, put this into perspective. Most $70 games that are coming out today that are made by these AAA developers, like Modern Warfare 3 or God of War Ragnarok. God of War Ragnarok, I platinumed that game, meaning I did everything you could possibly do in 42 hours.
Oh,
70-hour game.
Spider-Man 2 took me 30 hours to platinum.
Meanwhile, Shadow of the Erdtree took what? I took about 45 hours on my first playthrough, and I still didn't do everything. like Liam, I explored most areas, but there's still stuff I probably have not seen or don't know about. Like the bell bearings. The bell bearings were a good example. I didn't even know those were a thing until Liam just told me now. And that's the
I
thing.
didn't know until I saw a TikTok today about it.
That's fair.
But
That's
it's like
fair.
this is
TikTok
a
girls.
DLC the size of a video game. And FromSoft isn't even charging a full game for it. So it makes me like understand why it took them 2 years to make this.
Yeah.
Oh yeah,
All
definitely.
right, I think we can also, since we're talking about stuff in the game, I think we can talk about one of the big things in the game, which is the weapons and how
Yes. Yes. Yes.
they added a bunch of new weapons. I think it was like 80 something.
100, I
And
think.
like, yeah.
Yeah, I think
And
They
like,
added like
And a lot of them have really cool movesets and
a bunch of new
actual
weapons,
moves.
8 new weapon types, I believe.
I thought it
8.
was 5.
No, it was 8.
No, 8.
Okay.
No, it's
I
eight.
can list them all off: perfume bottles, light great swords, great katanas, hand to
goats.
hand, beast claws, throwing weapons. I'm missing 2.
Great Katanas, a light great sword.
Already
Did you
did
mention
that.
those?
I already did that. I
Yeah.
already mentioned those 2.
Beast
Okay,
Claws.
so-
I already
point,
mentioned that.
point is that they introduced 8 new weapon
I'm gonna
types.
find out.
They introduced 8 new weapon types into the DLC, which makes you, hell, if you want to play with more freedom, boom, they just let you have it with the DLC. But it's not perfect, which we will talk about in a second. But boy,
Reverse hand blade swords, which is a very cool one, and
Yeah.
rusting shields.
Oh yeah, dueling shields.
And they all have very distinct movesets. They have some of the most like they change how you play the game drastically, every single one of those, and how you play the game. And they even added like new mechanics with like stance weapons and perfume bottles and like that kind of thing. Where like and like resource management. It's so cool.
it's really sick.
Oh yeah.
My question is, what new weapon types, or if you guys can remember, what new weapon types did you use for the DLC, and or just new weapons in general? Because on my first
I
playthrough,
used-
Great katana, baby.
2 weapon types. Both of them were the same. When the game first started, I found the beast claws very quickly because they're at the start of the game, and I ran with those. And then I found a way to get to an area I thought was impossible to get to. Fought a monk and took his hands and got the dry leaf arts, and then proceeded to use those until the final boss, where I got a different version of the behind the hand. So I used a one type of weapon, so that is all I can say.
that's awesome. What about y'all?
Oh yeah. For me, I used the Milady like greatsword the entire playthrough. Like I changed up the Ash of War on it a fair amount of times, but like light greatsword the entire way through for me. Like it's just such a fun weapon class they added.
Nice.
Me personally, I explored a fuck ton. Anytime I found a new weapon, I just kind of messed around with it. Like I used the light great swords. I didn't use the Milady. I thought about it, but I used the Renala twin blades. I used
Rolana.
the great sword. Yeah, Rolana. Sorry. Shut up. Very similar.
Oh my
name.
gosh, Jay! I can't believe you messed up a very similar
word.
sounding
You
name.
messed up your words. You messed up your
Yeah,
words.
how dare you?
Minor spelling
Yeah, then-
mistake. I win.
I used
The
different
hardest part
great
of Elden Ring is saying all the names that George R. R. Martin made very similar. Because like you have a bunch of family names that start up just with M, just with R.
Thank you, George.
Yeah.
You got
Martin.
Renala, you got
George R. R.
Rolana,
Martin
you
for
got
making-
Rykard, you got Radon, you got Radagon.
I love George
You got
R. R.
Ronnie.
Martin making every single name just part of his initials.
You got Melina, you got Mulaney, you got Mikkel,
Oh my
you
god,
got
shut up.
Mesmer.
You're making it worse.
Ah, yes, I love bullying people for a
Moog,
single mistake. It's
Morga.
my favorite.
Yeah, I used the backhand blades a little bit. I used the great katana. I used the Dragon Hunter great katana for shits and giggles. I used the axes. I switched through a bunch of different weapons. I used great axes. I explored a lot, like what weapons I liked. Pretty much every new weapon I found, if it looked cool and had a cool Ash of War, I tried it.
That's fair.
No, that's
That's
completely
completely
fair.
fair.
Yeah.
And also, something I didn't know if you guys tried or not. Did you guys find the maddening hand? It's a hand-to-hand weapon.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh yeah, in the Abyssal Woods.
It is a
No.
fist weapon, and it is quite cool. I'm pretty sure it's also good in PvP because I was really hoping that they'd make Madness viable in the DLC as like anything other than PvP, but still no.
I will say, at the very least, the DLC has a lot more NPC fights than like the base game, and NPC fights maddening does work, so it is at least a little more viable in that sense, because you could use it in your offhand or something.
Yeah. And then I knew whenever I got to the final boss after slamming my head at that brick wall, I switched back to the Great Sword and put Savage Lion's Claw on it. Cause fuck that guy.
A tale as old as
Yeah.
time.
I know.
Has everyone else said
Um,
what build they used?
I think you and Guy are the only ones who haven't talked about it too much.
Well, no, Connor just yelled, "Great
Oh, yeah.
Katana!"
But I didn't go
Ah.
into my specific build. I gotta go into my build. Silly.
go for it.
Bleed Great Katana.
Wrong. Incorrect. You're wrong. I actually used
Oh yeah.
a standard great katana that you find at the Ghost Flame area with the Ash of War you get from the Dancing Lion. And I used that the entire game. And it was very fun because it had 127 frost buildup.
Funnily enough, I used the same exact Ash of War on like Milady through most of my playthrough. Like, I swapped it up for a couple boss fights and whatnot, where like the stomping was not the best strategy for something that's head is in the air. But I used that Ash of War for
Here's
so
the thing,
long, along with wearing the goofy
I didn't
lion head.
even use the stomp all that much. I just found the base move set that the katanas got to be so fun that I just used that.
Yeah, Great Katana's got a great moveset. I'd say they're definitely probably one of the best new weapon
They're
classes
definitely my
added.
favorite.
Either that or
The
maybe
great
backhand blades.
katana is the
Monster
best,
Hunter.
probably, and then backhand blades and like great swords, and then probably the martial arts.
Here's my question.
I used to watch a video and like a ranking of the DLC weapons. So, hee.
Here's my question. How in the fuck are y'all 2 for 2 in terms of having similar like builds or something? Because like, what did Brewer use in the DLC? Frost with the Dancing Lion Ash
Specifically
of War. What?
The Divine Beast
Yes.
Frost Stomp.
What the fuck did y'all use for base game? Both say it.
Morgoth's Cursed Sword.
Morgoth's sword and Bloodhound Fang.
Listen,
Then how the fuck?
Oh no.
How in the actual fuck?
I mean, this time we used different weapons. We just used the same Ash of
Exactly.
War.
Out of,
Same
like,
shit, different story.
Thousands.
Hey, I'll say, and again, in my defense, I did also use like 3 other different types of Ashes of War, like this flame spear thrust one, the Sacred Blade incantation on it, and then I also used like the Chilling Mist one.
That's fair.
Listen,
So I at least changed it up, and we didn't use the same weapon this time. We just used 2 very similar weapons. They're both swords, just Connor's is bigger, mine's a little smaller. Wait, shit. That sounds bad out of context.
See, here's the thing. If you're using the
Long
same
distance
Ash of
run.
War, you're pretty much using the same fucking weapon because the Elden Ring meta is just Ash of War spam, and I'm not even kidding about that.
Nope.
That's all I
That is
did. Not
that
even
is
kidding.
just
That's all I
not
did.
true.
That is true, yes.
No, using
Rivers
the
of
same
Blood,
Depends on the weapon.
Moon
Use,
Veil,
using
Sword of Night and Flame. There's only a few. Oh,
No, I'm
You're saying
talking about
special
using
weapons.
using different weapons, but using the same Ash of War is using the same thing. No, they have different R1s, R2s, jumping, crouching, everything.
Well, yeah, okay, I know. I'm making a joke. The point that I'm making is that like
Oh, it
L2
did not. Okay,
yeah. The point that I'm making is that L2 spam is just like the way to like that's the best way to play Elden Ring like optimally because that's just the meta.
That's what that is.
Well,
What
I
I
will
did for
say
my
Connor did
was
note he
just
didn't use
spam
L2
to
all
try
that
before
much.
wind, because
Yeah.
that move is good.
The only time I can remember using the L2 was when I was trying to clear out like a group of enemies that was like jumbled up because that's what the Frost Thump is really good at. And occasionally I used it whenever I was like getting a boss up from repost and to just get that extra bit of damage, but most of the time I would end up healing. But speaking of
Yeah.
bosses, what do we? I know we've already said like generally, but what are personally our top 5 favorite out of the DLC so far?
Well, I want to say one last thing with the weapons that me and Guy have been discussing for a good couple of weeks now. We like a lot of the new weapon classes, and all the new weapons they added are a lot of fun. But God, I wish they had given us a little more options, especially for the new weapon
What
classes.
I kind
That
of
is completely fair because we got like what 2 or 3 for. We got 1 for throwing daggers. There is 1 weapon for the throwing daggers.
there's only
Because that is
3
it. That
great. Yeah, there's only 3 great.
3 great
katanas as well.
katanas, 2 martial arts, 3
3 light
backhands,
great
3
swords.
of those, and then 3 perfume
Yeah,
bottles.
3 light
I
great
think perfume
swords.
bottles have the most, but they're the same. They're the same weapon, just different.
Yeah, perfume bottles are literally the
Just
same as
different
they.
status effects.
Yeah, they're the same, but a different
Well,
status
they do have
effect.
different
And I think
scaling.
they're already pretty similar to like base game.
Yeah,
Yeah,
but they have
they're
different
not
scaling.
like. That's fair, but like, for example, the 2 footworks have different R1s and R2s and like that kind of stuff. The different I don't think great katana's the same. Like, do they attack the same for their R1s and R2s?
Yeah, the
Okay,
moveset, no, the
so
moveset is the same. It's just the like the L2s are different in the scaling.
yeah,
Okay.
Well, we'll say the L2s on all the perfume bottles are very similar, especially for the fact that like before the game got patched, everyone was using the same Rolling Sparks Ash of War on any of the perfume bottles because of how
couldn't
busted
you
it
one shot
was.
the final boss with that build?
You could one-shot any boss on the game with that weapon.
Yes,
It
you
got
could.
nerfed.
Wait,
Though.
you could
Thank
one shot.
God.
With the right build, you could
Yes,
one
it
shot.
did like 50k damage.
But yeah, no, I do want to talk about that though. It's like of the 100 new weapons they added into the game, only 17 of them are from the new weapon classes. Like what?
Yeah, even worse as well, for all the remembrance bosses they had, only one of the remembrance bosses has one of the new weapon classes as a reward. Like none of the rest of
Spoilers,
them.
it's Rolana.
Like why? Yeah, it's Rolana. And it isn't even all that good. Milady is still better.
I think what they should have done is make it to where some of the bosses drop like for their remembrance they can drop one of the new weapon types, and they also should have added like maybe 5 per type, like maybe besides the martial arts, because I think it's pretty hard to do 5 different versions of martial arts.
Yeah.
I mean, hey, you could do like I don't know,
Muay
Brazilian
Thai. Give
jiu-jitsu and then Muay
give me
Thai.
Muay Thai martial arts, and I will go crazy.
Give me spin
You could do
jutsu.
no, you
That'd
could
be
do
funny.
like different. You could do like different forms of martial arts. I think that'd be sick as hell.
That would have been cool, but
Yeah,
coolest thing
yeah, that's what I was saying, just like Brazilian jiu-jitsu and then
the
Muay
coolest
Thai.
thing to do would have done
Karate.
they could have done is added a spin jutsu martial arts. That would have been very good.
So true.
Wait, no. Imagine you like fucking have a karate moveset and then you do the crane kick on the final boss.
That'd be cool. But
I will.
yeah, I think 5 weapons for each new weapon type, because that would have only been 40 out of the 100, so still in the minority. of like new weapons. I think it would have been perfectly fine to just add those. And
Yeah, because I remember for me going through the game, like I found the Milady, and I was like, oh, I want like another like greatsword because these seem like they would be fun to dual wield. So I found the second one, but it was Rolana's, which, if you don't know, is already kind of a dual blade one. It's one of those weapons that has the gimmick of if you two hand it, it's two separate weapons in one. So it's like,
Yeah.
okay, with the requirements it has, that doesn't really fit all that well, especially because Milady just is better with my scaling. So I'll just wait till I find another one. Little did I know, the only other like greatsword I could get was literally at like the boss right before the final boss.
That was one of my that was such a big flaw where so many of the like new types of weapons were at the end. One of the perfume bottles you get after you beat the final boss. One of the other type of martial arts you get right before the final boss. The other light greatsword, the other one of the backhand blades. Like almost every single type of weapon, at least one of them was
wait,
around the final boss.
what perfume bottle are you talking about?
I cannot say, but it's the poison. Is it the poison one?
Because I was gonna
It's
No,
say,
like
the
if
poison one you
it's,
can get from
if
a
it's
shop.
yeah, that's what I was gonna say. The poison one
It's
you get from a shop.
the one that's dropped by the dude that the guy.
Yeah, you can.
Okay, if it's the
I'm thinking it can drop there, but you can get it
yeah
earlier,
you
I
Yeah, no,
can
you
think.
can
buy it.
Oh,
buy it from him. Yeah,
oh, I didn't know that.
silly Liam.
Okay, either way though, that doesn't excuse the other weapons, because
Out of
I think for a DLC, people have been waiting years on, but also like with save files that are already at like 100 hours for a lot of people, the last thing they want to do is be spending like maybe 30 or 35 of their hours out of the 40 hours in the DLC using weapons they've already grown accustomed to. If you're adding new weapon types, people are going to want to use them. So I think they should have been like some of the first weapons you would find naturally.
I have a very big problem with it because like a lot of these really cool weapons you cannot use until the DLC in the first place, which means that like I can't even do like a build centered around like perfume bottles until the DLC unless I do like online stuff and not everyone has access to that.
Or
Either
yeah, I
that
was
or
just
a
Through
new
gonna
New
go
game
Game
New Game
plus.
Plus,
Plus.
and like some people don't like the New Game Plus, they just want to do different builds and stuff like that. Kind of like me, I don't know if I'll do a new game. I'll probably do a New Game Plus just so I can experiment with the different weapons, but like I'm just adding arbitrary difficulty by doing New Game Plus.
Yeah, I don't know. Controversial opinion of my take. I feel like when they added new weapons for the DLC, I feel like they should have gone back in some areas and added like new weapons in the base game that were like from
Yeah, I
DLC
was gonna say.
classes, so you could use them in
Yeah,
the
I was
base
actually gonna
game,
say the
but
same
then
thing.
also in the
Yeah, I was actually
DLC.
gonna say the exact same.
Yeah, we're having the same
Dude,
thoughts again,
Brewer and
Connor.
me are we're just linked like that.
We're synced up right now. We could do a fusion
Yeah,
attack.
after that one time we did a fusion dance at Guy's house, I think our brainwaves just never stopped syncing up.
What's our fusion name? Bruner?
Bruner.
Bruner.
Bruner. But yeah,
But
no, I did know most of your thoughts,
Conwer.
but like I do think by having the weapons in the DLC, you're having like you're making exploring the DLC worth it. Like, don't get me wrong, I like again, we're kind of like this is just nitpicking, all things considered, because like I'm so happy that they added new weapon classes. Like oh god, it's so rare for them to actually for developers to actually add like new weapon classes for massive expansions this big, and for the weapons to be fun too.
Yeah, I think it's one of our criticisms that comes like it's like it comes from a love of something they did, like sort of like base game. Like I loved all the different weapons I could experiment with, but like I was saying in the original Elden Ring video, the upgrade system annoyed me, especially for the fact that there was a limited amount of like the max upgrade stone. Like I was fine if they were hard to get, but it was like I hate that it was limited because that really desensitivizes me to like try a lot of different builds out. You have all these fun weapons I can use, but I can only upgrade oh so many of them to max level.
The DLC does fix that
Like I love the
partly because
weapons.
they do add a bunch new ancient dragon stones, but I do
Oh no, they had a
yeah
shit ton of
yeah.
smithing
So
stuff.
I definitely think it's not. It definitely still is a problem, and I do agree with you that it shouldn't be like a limited amount. But I think that they did try to remedy that a bit with the DLC.
Yeah, yeah, I'll give them credit on that end.
But I think we've been talking about the weapons for a good while. So why don't we move back to the top 5 bosses idea?
I think before we do that, we should preface probably our spoiler part of the video because we are going to be talking about remembrance fights from the game. So if you have not played any of Shadow of the Erdtree and you are still interested in this DLC, just saying right now, worth it, worth the $40, just as big as a video game. But spoilers incoming in 3, 2, 1. Radahn
Penis
is the final
balls.
boss.
Radahn is also gay, and he has a gay relationship.
He has a gay relationship
Yes.
with his brother.
See,
Yep.
see, no, that's why.
Moog beat the
No,
allegations.
see, that's why.
Oh no.
That's why Radahn was like there were so many people complaining about Radahn because they were fighting him during Pride Month. Of course, he would be hard.
He was overpowered. He was overtuned.
He literally,
because of Game
he-
Month.
yeah, he literally had like. That's why I become literally God every time it's Pride Month. I get like a Super Saiyan power buff anytime it happens.
So real.
Well,
But
But,
I
like,
think sorry, you first.
I was just gonna say, like, I think if I'm gonna start off like our favorite fights from the DLC, I don't think there's any other fight in the DLC that matches the quality of Mesmer the Impaler. The build up to him
Mesmer-
is insane.
Mesmer the Impaler is
Mesmer's
the best
probably the
boss
best boss in the DLC.
I think Mesmer is my favorite boss in just the entire game because
Mine, easily. I put
Yeah.
him in another tier than the other bosses. I think he is what I think I would consider him a perfect boss fight. Perfect
Yeah.
difficulty, perfect move set.
the
all
only yeah, I think Mesmer is near perfect. There's only one move in him that I think is a little bullshit, and that's really saying something because a lot of the bosses in Elden Ring can have some bullshit moves, and Mesmer's entire like moveset feels entirely fair to the point where if I like continue to fail a lot at like a boss, I'll get angry. But with Mesmer, like besides like maybe 1 point at during the fight, the entire time I fought him, I never once got angry because every time I died, I was like, that wasn't my fault. Or that was my fault, and I just messed up. And because the entire fight is so fair, it's insane. Like
Yeah.
I really don't know how they made a fight feel so like even-sided and fair.
I think we got Connor
It's
and
'cause
Liam's
they-
favorite
they-
fight
they
as
kept
well.
it simple. They kept it simple. They gave him like he's got punish windows, even though they're very difficult. He's got he can be poise broken. He can be afflicted with things, but he also has a very difficult to dodge move set if you don't know what's coming next, especially in that second phase. But he's just like cool lore wise, he's cool gameplay wise, like the gameplay loop with him is really fun. He's fun like in every aspect, and I think he's like the perfect FromSoft boss.
I agree 100%. I think
Yeah, that and just like the build up to him
Yeah.
as well. I think the lore behind him is like really cool with his relationship to America and like why he's in the Land of Shadows.
dude, that phase transition that he has, that cutscene is the coolest I've ever seen.
Oh yeah, I want to shout out the voice actor as well because like Mesmer's voice actor was fucking fantastic.
He sounded
Even if I did
so
hate hearing in the embrace of
he
Mesmer's
sounded
flames.
so disinterested until you got to a second phase.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Well, the face transition, the voice work they did for that, where he was saying like taken into the jaws of the abyssal serpent, the way the voice deepened at that point, I really like that.
Yeah, God, it's so cool because like the implications with Mesmer as well with his face transition is insane. It's very much implied that he might be an Empyrean. We'd still have to do some lore searching to see if he's an Empyrean, but the reason why that is because he's cursed, like Melania and Mikola, with the Abyssal Serpent, which is another outer god. So we still like obviously we need to wait and see. Thank you from VodiVidya because he's our goat to see if like anything is to come of that. But it's so cool being able to see that in his second phase because we got to see it with Melania. We didn't really get to see it with Mikola, unfortunately. But
because he probably, funnily enough, has it the easiest of the outer gods, where he's just eternally youthful. It's not so much it causes him constant pain as having the goddess of rot inside of you, or an entire abyssal serpent. What?
He has the eternal pain of not being able to reach the top of the shelf without a chair.
True.
Okay. I guess you're right about that.
If Melania's angry at him, she can always just put his keys on the top of the fridge and he ain't going fucking nowhere. Not that he could drive anyways though, because his feet can't reach the pedals.
You have to piggyback on Red Down.
It's also very it's very funny because I remember when the DLC hadn't come out yet, people were like theorizing that Mikola was actually Torrent, which is
what?
You know, I do want to note there was a like picture they released before the DLC came out of like Mikola on Torrent. Why the fuck did we never get anything on that?
Because funny. Because funny FromSoft.
Yeah, like they put it in the promotional material, but like literally just never has anything in the game mentioned about it.
What did you say? Sorry.
I was saying the fact that like there's promotional material like before the DLC came out of like Mikola riding on Torrent, but we never got an explanation for that in game.
Yeah, that's my computer background right now. Is that image?
That's a based background. What can I say?
It's really pretty. It's there's some weird unanswered lore. I'm not too like it's like there's like some weird lore that are like FromSoft just does this where they just like, we're gonna put stuff in a trailer that's never going to be mentioned again, or we're gonna have a character in the game that has really cool lore, and then they're gonna be in the game for like 3 seconds.
That's most boss fights, if I'm gonna be honest, dog. That's most boss fights.
Yeah.
They have really cool lore, but only in the game for 3 seconds.
Yeah, that's like 95% of the boss fights.
It's a little set, and like all of their lore is through text, which is like fine, but it's like it's funny.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, I finally found the voice actor for Mesmer, because for some reason it's just very hard to find the voice actors for this game. But Jack Barton is the voice of Mesmer, so shout out to him.
Bro.
Also, Richard Lintern, the voice of Egon, or Mr. Curse You Bale guy.
Egon,
shout out to you. You put your heart and soul into Curse Bale.
He truly is. Here's my question for Brewer and Jay, since we kind of got a little sidetracked. What's y'all's favorite boss from the DLC?
Fuck, that's hard. Thinking besides Mesmer and Radon, because obviously those are the 2 peaks. Fuck. I really liked Bale a lot. Like, Bale pissed me off. But I did really enjoy the fight with Bale, especially knowing that, like, that's the same dragon that fucking injured, fucking Blasudasak.
And vice versa.
Yep.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, like, just knowing that is really adds to the fight. It's like I'm fighting something that injured the little god of dragons.
It's
So
Well, that and he was a boss that got decent build up by the fact that there's a guy on the side of the road screaming, "Curse you, Bale!" So I'm like, man, who is Bale?
Who is
Bale?
that guy?
crazy mother.
I don't really know how to describe it, but Bale kind of gives me the same sort of feeling as like Radon 1 gives me, where everyone was like, what would this guy have been in his like prime? Because when you fight Bale, he is all kinds of fucked up. Like he's doesn't have a leg. He's like using only one arm. Like it's really bad. And so I'm just wondering like what a fight against Bale would be like when he was actually just like fully recovered and not
That's-
fucked up from blizzard sex.
That's every boss in this game. It's like, man, I kind of wish I fought them at their prime instead of now.
At least we got Prime Radon, because like
Prime Radon
I think
is-
that's what like a bunch of people were asking for before the DLC. Is like, oh, I want to fight Radon in
they
his prime.
regret that
I doubt
statement.
that's gonna happen, and then it fucking happened, and we all got our asses
That,
kicked.
that
By
was
the way-
biggest mistake of our lives.
So real quickly, how since we all have agreed that Radon is probably one of the hardest, if not the hardest, boss fight in all Souls games, how many attempts did it take each of us?
I did not keep track. I know it's. I think when I initially beat it, I checked my post. It was anywhere from like 80 to 100.
I thought you said it was like almost 200.
Like
Yeah, I also heard that it was almost 200.
no, I said my initial post.
What?
Like his last count when it was.
But the problem is you lose count, and then once Guy said he had 191 attempts. He's played all the Souls games, so I started having doubts about like, did I do it in that
To
many?
be fair, I probably could have done it in much less attempts if I stopped switching up how I played, like mid-fight.
I did
Yeah.
it in 108.
Jay.
Once I figured out what weapon I needed to use and what the strategy was, it took me probably 30, 40 tries once I finally figured out what the fuck, like what I was going to actually kill him with. But just fighting him in general, it probably took me. It was over 100 tries, but it wasn't close to 200 like I told you guys. I say it was probably somewhere 150, 180, probably in there.
So
I don't know.
it took me 103 tries, and since Brewer lost count, he probably also has over 103, which means I am, without a doubt, completely unanimously decided, and nobody will ever disagree with me ever. I am once again the best Elden Ring player. I would like to.
All right,
I'm
everyone,
Alright,
gonna
this
go
is
get him.
Connor's last time in Fetch Quest.
I'm
We're
gonna give a
actually
round of
gonna hit him,
applause to myself.
and,
I'd like to thank my
this
mom. I'd
has
like to thank
nothing
my
to do
dad.
With him being gay, it's not a hate crime. It's because he's a big
I-
piece of shit.
I'd love to thank everyone who supported me this far. Egon, you're the GOAT. My Mimic tier in base game, you were great. I didn't use you for the final boss, but you were great. I'd like to give a shout out to the great Katana with Divine Beast.
Didn't you use him on
I
Rolana?
did, but that's only because Guy told me to.
Okay, how about this? How about we give the
I don't
best,
know,
how
though,
about we give
Connor.
the best Elden Ring player award to Connor's Mimic tier and not him? Because it seems that
You know
he's
what?
I'm fine with that.
You're actually right about
I am
that.
down for
fine
Connor.
with
You're
that.
actually so right about that. Mimic tier, come up here and get the reward, Mimic tier. You deserved it, man. You're the greatest.
Mimic tier is kind of like a washed-up celebrity. It's like, yeah, that celebrity is still popular with people, but oh my god, do so many people hate them. More like canceled, honestly.
Yeah.
But yeah,
We don't talk about that.
going back to the main point though, the final boss is hard. It is so hard. I love the lore implications with it, don't get me wrong. I just really God, I wish they kind of like tune down some of his moves, keep the difficulty, but make it so like I didn't have to be frame perfect with a lot of the dodges. I feel like way too tight on dodges in my opinion.
Most of the time it felt fair, but there was just a good amount of attacks that like felt like they came out really quickly with like no time to react, or he wasn't properly signaling he was going to do that attack. or some attacks that like their hitboxes just felt like so damn inconsistent. I was like, what the fuck did I even get hit by?
There was one attack.
That or Mikola's damn hair getting in the way
There's
half
one
the time.
attack he has, where he'll do these like two super quick sword slashes into like an X, and then he'll like swipe them down, and he'll do like a giant earthquake. I hate that attack because no matter how much I would try and dodge it, I would always at least get hit by one of the fast sword swings. It was like super unreactable.
Yeah.
And that's not even
Yeah.
like bringing up the second phase bullshit. Like I really love the fight. I think it's really cool. But even I'm not gonna deny that it's got some bullshit in phase 2.
See,
No, phase 2, to me, if you ask me to describe it, it's just one big fucking flashbang getting skull fucked by Requise, dude. I'm not even kidding.
Oh, the
Please?
classic.
Skull fucked by
The
Requise.
classic Jay, I love you for that reference.
That's a pretty
Getting
good one.
fucked up.
It is
'Cause, like,
it is
I
a
didn't,
fight and a
I didn't mind him like in each of his swings where the beam of light would come down. I didn't mind that too much. But when he's doing like fucking 15 hit chain combos and there's a beam of lights coming down every fucking time, it becomes an issue. And like
Yeah.
I don't-
something
okay.
I struggled with a lot.
Okay, I do think
I don't know
it's
how you guys
fair. Just for me, I never had that problem of feeling like I was getting flashbanged whenever he would do one of the attacks that used pops of
Same
lights.
I didn't feel like it was. I
You
feel
are
like it was
lucky then
fucking.
because every single attack I would just be a giant ball of light blocking half of my screen.
Maybe it's the direction the camera's angled at. I don't know, but I didn't really have too much of a flashbanging problem. Again, it was mostly Mikola's damn hair half
Bro
the
needs
time.
to
just
cut those
getting in the
locks.
way.
skill issue. Or skill issue.
That's so
Tried and
true.
I don't know about
No,
you guys, but
that's just false.
Well, if you had a problem with it and I didn't, that must mean you're just bad. And skill
Or
issue,
it just
so-
means that you're better.
Guy played on easy mode. Yeah. He turned
Yeah,
off.
definitely.
He turned off flashbangs in the option.
yeah.
Um,
I don't know about you guys, but
but
I had so much issues with the dodge his attacks where he would just like where Melania would send out the fucking like the Scarlet Rot clone type. I don't know how you describe
Just
it.
clones. I call
But
them golden
after
clones.
image, yeah, those guys, I could not dodge them for the life of me. I did not know how. I would just have to hope and pray that I didn't die whenever I got hit. It was so fucking hard to dodge those guys.
The worst one was 100% the one he does after the meteorite attack. Guy told me there was a way to dodge it, and I tried that every single time, and I never was able to fully dodge it. It's kind of horse shit.
If you're just like far enough away, funnily enough, they just don't reach you sometimes.
Oh,
and
I
so
did not
would
know
just
that.
I just did.
I
that.
didn't know if I if the best strategy was to try to roll it, because every time I tried rolling it, I felt like there was no way in hell I could possibly time my rolls or roll quick enough to dodge all of those attacks. But I didn't know the best strategy. Like I had a horrible time with those moves in particular, because with how much damage that boss would do, if I feel like I got hit once and he continues to hit me because I'm stun locked, I'm just fucking dead. So
that kind of
I
goes
got
back
murdered,
into what I was saying in the original Elden Ring video about my biggest flaw with the game is that I feel like FromSoft, they took a step forward but 2 steps back in terms of their boss design, and I feel like the DLC final boss, Radon Promised Consort, is a very big case for that.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not too angry about it since it is the final boss for a DLC they were working on for 2 years. Like, we were all expecting it to be hard. It's just, man, we did not expect it to be that hard.
Yeah, but it's like, it just feels like too much is overtuned, you know what I mean?
A little bit, but again, for how notoriously difficult Elden Ring already was, I can pass the final boss being bullshit to some degree.
Which is really
I mean,
funny
I
because
still
most
was
people-
wanting to slam my controller whenever I got hit by the same 5 string of attacks that should not have hit me, but you know, it is what it is. We all ended up beating it
We're
anyways.
goated. And we're the best video game podcast out there because we're good at video games.
It didn't take me nearly as long to beat him as it did Melania. I don't know why, but oh my god. I think he's harder than Melania. I just think I got luckier with Radon than I did Melania. Or something. I don't know.
That's completely fair. Like that is a thing that just happens with his AI.
Yeah.
But,
It's like I told you, like my biggest.
Funnily enough,
With-
there's a funny thing. At the very end of his attack string, he will do, or like when he's low on health, he'll go up into the sky and rain down just a meteor. Haha, get it? Because he uses meteor magic. Anyways, you can just jump in place
Yes.
constantly, and he will just fall back down.
It's
think that's
really
gonna get
funny.
patched.
Yeah,
It's
I
gonna
saw.
get patched, but it's
No,
so
yeah.
funny.
I saw a clip of that and I lost it. Dude, that's so funny.
It's kind of funny, like the strongest demigod out there fears just the jumping
He just like
carnage.
loses sight. He's like,
Oh lord, what's he doing? He's hopping.
he's just jumping there menacingly.
Yeah, yeah. Next time I want to fight a demigod during Pride Month, I'm just gonna bring a frog. That'll
That
scare him
turns
away.
Frog's gay.
But
But
yeah, I do want to kind of wrap things up a little bit because we're getting close to an hour, and I do
We've
want to
already
say
passed
this
an
one
hour.
thing.
We've been
already
close.
passed we've already.
Never mind.
It's been well.
Never mind. But to wrap up a little bit, because we did talk about the final boss a lot and difficulty, I just want to say my concluding points about the DLC and what it means. I personally think Shadow of the Erdtree is one of the best DLCs I've ever played. I give it a 10 out of 10, that is for sure. I think it is more Elden Ring and at its best. But I won't lie when I say I do think it brings up some new flaws with the game, and I don't think they should be ignored, because I do think they are worthy criticisms for FromSoft in the future, and I do have a little bit of concern of where FromSoft will take the Soul series from here. But I think we're in good hands, and plus, like, guys, though we like spend a good amount of this video like complaining about some flaws and whatnot, this is still probably the best gaming content we're gonna get out of 2024.
Whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa.
We complain
Let's not say
about
that
it
yet.
being hard. It's just that
We've still got Persona 3 Reload, the answer, coming out soon, and we all know that's going to be great.
Yeah. Who hired this guy?
Well, if we're talking about DLC content, Elden Ring's definitely the best.
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
it's not gonna
It
work.
Yeah, it's still really surprising to me that they made an entire DLC and just made it a game. And also just a really fun game. It's really crazy to me. Like, as guys said before, there are so many games nowadays where there are like companies that'll ship out games that are basically just DLCs, and they'll call it a new game. Meanwhile, FromSoft's doing the absolute opposite, and it's very Chad, very base move. But I think if my final points are, this was also my first FromSoft game. I really enjoyed Elden Ring, and Shadow of the Erdtree, as Guy said, it was a bit of a wake-up call to like, man, this game's really, really hard. And so I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I think it has definitely made me a better Souls player because of it.
Exactly.
Because right now, because I enjoyed the DLC so much, I decided to go and play the second hardest Souls game because I think a lot of people now think that Elden Ring is the hardest if you're including the DLC, and I would agree. But now I'm playing Bloodborne, the second hardest Souls game now. So I'm gonna have fun.
Also, one of my favorites.
But
yeah.
You struggled with Putrescent Knight. I'm kind of wondering what Orphan of Cause is going to look
I
like.
didn't. I did not struggle with
Yeah.
Putrescent Knight.
What Jay, Liam, Brewer, what about y'all?
I hope it'll be easy.
I will go. I think that it is the best part of Elden Ring, which is already saying a lot, and I think it's so funny how video games will remove content from base game to put it into a DLC, and then these guys just were like, we're gonna give you DLC, and then they just gave us another game that if any other studio released, it would have been considered a brand new game, 100% worth the $40 price point. It is a masterpiece, has some of the best areas in the game, has some of the best enemy design, everything like that, and OST bangs.
Yeah,
Oh yeah.
Brewer?
Jay?
You can go, bro.
Oh, okay. I think for me, my points are gonna be like basically just reiterating a lot of what Dave said. Like, it's one of the few I think worth it DLCs that any company's putting out right now, because like it didn't release immediately after the game did. It wasn't something that was cut out of the game. No, this is new content that they made over the course of 2 years after the first game was already finished, which the main game can already take you like 70 to 100 hours to beat. So like that's already a big ass game. Now the big ass game, it gets like another 40 hours of content, which is insane. I've loved every single one of the new bosses, even if some of them made me want to smash a
No,
controller against the
no.
wall.
Stupid fucking Commander Gaius, whatever his name
Gaius.
Gaius.
is. Hate him.
Okay, Commander Gaius is like fucking Hog Rider was a little annoying since I think his hitbox needs to be patched, but I mean, other than that, he was a fun fight. But yeah, other than Commander Gaius, I loved all the new weapons. I just had that minor complaint though of there not being enough of the new types of weapon classes. That and maybe like some of the rewards for areas could have been those new weapons instead of like a million cookbooks. But I mean, other than that, I love the base Elden Ring. I think it's a masterpiece. Like I said before, I don't even know what to say about it now because they've added even more onto it. So either way, go play Elden Ring. It's fantastic.
Yeah.
Exactly. Jay?
For my point, for something I've been struggling with is playing a lot of games. I just lose interest, or I just don't complete games as much as I used to because life sucks. But but with this, it just held my attention the entire time and had me like hooked in the struggle of the DLC because it was so damn hard and I wanted to overcome it. And that's something that I love about from games. So it just had me hooked in there the whole time. As many times as I took breaks, so I didn't lose my sanity. But like for the most part, all I can say is what you guys said. It's just like the DLC is what FromSoft has already said, their best DLC I've ever played. Because I'm like guy, I've played almost as many Souls games as he has. I think he has one on me, but this is my favorite DLC and favorite Souls game ever, and I'm excited to see where it goes. I know there's some worries there, like guys said, but I'm excited to see what FromSoft develops next and what new challenges they're gonna bring, and just show up to completely destroy my butthole because I'm not ready for that. I'm not.
Yeah, that's gonna be something
Looking
consistent
forward
from
to
here
fighting
on.
that.
Is our buttholes maybe not gonna be so feeling good after the next few FromSoft games. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, because they're just getting harder and harder.
It will not be possible for us to sit down for at least a month after playing any new FromSoft
Exactly.
game.
Yeah, I don't even want to sit. I just beat that fucker Radon.
Oh god.
Oh.
But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching our sequel video to Elden Ring, Shadow of the Erdtree. We thank you guys so much for watching our content, and games like DLCs like this, remind us what good game design can be and what developers can do for the gaming industry. FromSoft is moving the gaming industry in a way that we just want to see keep going. And I'm glad that FromSoft has as much influence as it does now in terms of like game design and influence. But with that being said, guys, thank you so much for watching our Shadow of the Erdtree video. Like like the video if you want more content like this. Hit the subscribe button if you want to see our other videos. We have an Elden Ring video as well, and of course, leave a comment and tell us what your favorite boss was or what build you went in with the DLC. But with that being said, guys,
Better not have been a bleed
of
build,
course. But with that being said, guys,
or else Cat
thank
will
you
kill you.
so much for watching our episode on Shadow of the Erdtree. Thank you guys so much for watching. See you later.
Goodbye.
Bye-bye.